Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at the Rectron Microsoft Channel Connect. My name is Elaine Wang. I'm the Cloud Solutions Director for Rectron. So here's a little bit about today's event. So we're going to get started with a talk from Aki around light at the end of the pandemic tunnel. The next up, my team in Carolina, Maryland will be presenting around profitability with Microsoft, very important, and especially around the FPP and CRM products. Next up, we have Gavin Bauer, who will be talking around some of the tools that Microsoft has to help you with your business. Last but not least, we will have Yesh talking around the outlook in the ICT sector in 2020 post-coronavirus. So I think we've got a really packed agenda. I hope that a lot of you find value from the agenda, and let's get started. So I know that for a lot of people, this is the very first time that you're using Microsoft Teams. So how do you use Teams for a live event? Very simple. You can click on the top right-hand side, you'll see a Q&A button on your screen. When you click that button, you'll see then two different tabs, the Feature tab and the My Questions tab. If you go into My Questions, you're able to then type in your question. Please remember, if you are going to ask a question or answer one of our questions, please remember to put in your full name because we are giving away prizes at the end of the event for questions asked. So if we don't know who you are, we're not going to be able to give you a prize. So remember to put in your full name. We're also going to be making various announcements during the course of the event. To look at the announcements, go into the Feature tab of the Q&A panel. Okay, if you have any questions, then please type in the chat and let us know if you have any problems. Okay, let's get started. Coronavirus, it's nothing new to anybody, I think, but it's had a fundamental impact in terms of everybody's lives. For the South African economy, it has been devastating. Experts are saying it's going to take a number of years for us to be able to build our economy back to where it was before. So what do we do? Well, firstly, digital transformation. We've been talking around digital transformation for many, many years now, but now with the impact of all the lockdowns, digital transformation worldwide has been brought to the forefront of conversations. What we're seeing is that those companies who have been able to successfully implement remote working have been the ones that have been successful during the lockdowns. We're seeing tools like Teams and its competitors surge in usage around the world. And it's not just for work, we're seeing this in schooling as well. Where does this leave us? This leaves us with loads and loads of new opportunities. And I think that there's some really great new opportunities that you have here with Microsoft. Remember that in order for you to find success, you need to be able to do something new today and not just do what you did yesterday to be successful in the long term. So what about Rectron? I'm really excited to announce that we have launched Rectron Zone. Rectron Zone is our new and revamped online ordering portal. So please log on to www.rectronzone.co.za. From Rectron Zone, you're able to process your orders directly online with Rectron. You're also able to view detailed information about product and see loads of pictures. The site's looking great, it's live, and get yourself registered. In the last few months, we have also launched RCT Cloud, so rctcloud.co.za. This is the home of our Microsoft Cloud Solutions program. So if you're looking for Microsoft Cloud products, please log on to RCT Cloud. From RCT Cloud, you're able to process orders with us that then tie in directly with the Microsoft systems. You're also then able to increase and decrease the number of licenses live. So really, really easy to use. Contact us if you have any questions. You'll see 3 brand logos on this slide. So really excited to announce that we are now distributors for Zebra, Lenovo DCG, as well as HP Print. Zebra is such an important part of the new world of business. It's got a lot to do with point of sale. If you're looking for new opportunities, a new product set is a good way for you to get started. We've got loads of Zebra webinars running at the moment. So if you want to know more, please look out for the webinars and get connected with us. The next one I'm very excited about is Lenovo DCG. Lenovo DCG is the Lenovo Private Cloud Stack. You really trust your customers' environments with the Lenovo laptops. Why not extend this into the Lenovo server offering? We actually have a webinar next week talking around Microsoft as well as Lenovo servers. The last thing that we have is that we have been appointed as HP Print distributors. So really excited to be adding all these exciting brands to our portfolio. That's it from me. I hope everybody enjoys the event. We've got a packed lineup and some really, really great speakers. As always, remember to ask any questions. Remember to put in your name when you ask questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Morning, everyone. So coming up next, we've got Aki. Although he refers to himself as the Greek geek, Aki has an exceptionally outgoing personality and is able to work a crowd like few others can. For example, he manages to single-handedly entertain a crowd of 50,000 people for 5 hours straight each year at the start of the Discovery 702 Walk the Talk. This media personality is highly ranked among the IT speakers. He addresses the corporate world on tech trends and is much in demand as an MC. He also shares his passion for IT during his broadcasts on 702 and Cape Talk on the CNBC Africa's weekly technology show, Tech Busters, with Stuff Magazine's editor and publisher of the South African edition. Over to you, Aki.
Yeah, very good morning to you, and I hope that you can all hear me okay. And I'm going to start sharing my screen over here. We're doing a lot of things for the first time. So how is everybody this morning, and how is everybody surviving the cold front that we're all currently experiencing? I hope that everybody is well. I'm just checking my screen, and I hope that you guys can see my screen correctly on your side, and I will start my presentation. So it's good to be with Team Rectron and Team Microsoft this morning, and we certainly are living in some very challenging times, and the world that we're living in is not the same anymore, unfortunately. And when you look at this pandemic and you look at how this pandemic has changed everything around us, right? And how many billions of people are affected, and the challenges that we are going to be facing, not only now, but until a vaccine is found in the future, until we get back into the business normal. This is going to be the new normal for all of us, as many teams are working across the world in their own specific areas. Everybody is working remotely right now, as many of you are remotely, and we want to hear your stories as well, by the way. How is this impacting your workflows and your customers? And is this the new normal for you? And this virus is certainly not going anywhere. As we've seen in the last couple of days in New Zealand, which people said New Zealand is now corona-free. They were corona-free for 24 days up until yesterday, where they had 2 new infections. You're seeing the resurgence in the US, for example. And you're just seeing how the whole world has just changed. In South Africa, even though we're down to lockdown level 3, there are still millions of people working from home. And if you look at the big companies that are really changing the way they are doing their work and where they are working, if you look at the banks in South Africa, for example, I know that ABSA, for example, has changed their whole way and their whole strategy. They've deployed many of their teams that are working remotely, and what they've said to those teams is that this is going to be your new future, that we are not going back to the new normal. If you look at companies like Dell, for example, their 160,000 workforce across the world, they're all over the place, and they are scattered around the world as we speak. Microsoft, the same thing. You look at Twitter, what was announced just the other day from the Twitter CEO, he says, listen, everybody's working remotely, but this is going to be the new normal, and this is where you guys are going to be working from future. So Twitter is not going back to where they were working before, and neither is Google, and neither is Microsoft, and neither are the likes of Facebook, where you've got these teams just deployed all over the place. So certainly we've seen these massive challenges that have been brought by Corona. And here's the interesting thing. If I ask all of you right now, a week before the president announced that this was going to be a lockdown and everybody's going to be working remotely, I mean, the reality is that many people said, wow, this is going to be impossible. We're not going to be able to do this. But the impossible became possible, right? I mean, if you look at the world that we're living in today, and you look at where everybody is working right now, what seemed impossible in March is now possible. So you need to ask yourselves, what else is impossible in the world that you're living in? What are the impossible things that your customers are telling you are impossible to do that can be made possible? And you know, when you look at where Microsoft was, I'll never forget sitting in a keynote address many years ago, listening to Satya Nadella, and this is before Satya was made the chief executive officer of Microsoft. And at the time, he was talking about Azure, and he was talking about cloud computing, and he was talking about how this new platform is going to be able to deploy apps and technologies and has the AI and has the big data analytics that people can work remotely. That was many years ago. So what I'm saying is that companies like Microsoft have been preparing for an eventuality like this virus. We didn't know it was coming, but for this breakdown in communication, shall we say, they've been preparing for this for years. And now that we are forced into the situation, we've all transitioned seamlessly into this. And it's been amazing to watch around the world. So in many respects, we've been ready because we've had these technologies working in the background. Look at how we're communicating now with Teams. So the impact to society and business has been tremendous. And if you look at the recession and the global economy and what's happening, it's the tech companies that are really showing the way forward and really showing the growth. But the reality is, let's not kid ourselves that this is going to bring a lot of bankruptcies. It's affected a lot of the supply chains, cross-border movement of products, and people like us, we can't go on holiday for how long? And of course, as I mentioned earlier, that real threat of this outbreak coming back again. So we've certainly seen this economic collapse globally, jobs being lost around the world. And if you look at the stats like flight radar, for example, I mean, this is one thing that amazes me in February of 2020, how many flights were in the air. You know, you're looking at an economy of the airline industry where you have, millions and millions of people flying at any one time, over 110,000 flights a day. And now there are no more than 20,000 flights a day. Most of those are made up of cargo. Now, this is slowly starting to change. But it's interesting how companies look at these changes that are happening. And, you don't think about the lipstick industry. Now, we hear about the lipstick effect is that when there's a recession around the world, women traditionally wear lipstick, and it's one of those industries that's quite resilient. Not so, because right now women are covering their faces. You can't see the lipstick. So all of these organizations like, Yardley and all the big lipstick manufacturers had to rethink their entire business model to say, if we're not going to be selling lipstick because people are going to be wearing masks in the future, we need to look at something else. So the big focus now is, eyelashes and defined brows and foundation on the top and this top part of the face. It's a complete transition in the industry of makeup and cosmetics. So what we need to decide is, do we create the wave or are we going to ride the wave? Because this is the wave that we're in right now. And this is the wave that is going to be with us for the next few years. And we need to decide which of these two are we going to do, both as consumers, both as business people like yourselves, both as resellers, wherever you are in the supply chain. This is what we need to decide. Because if we don't decide that, we are going to get destroyed by this particular wave. There's no doubt about the fact that we are undergoing the biggest work transformation in our entire history, where you've got people working remotely. I mean, if you look at, just for example, I'm looking at some of the stats that are linked to the coronavirus, for example, and you look at how many people are working remotely, how many minutes, and listen to this, this is coming from Microsoft, that in April, Microsoft Teams had 75 million active users, which was up from 70% 6 weeks ago at the start of the particular virus. 200 million meeting participants in one single day we saw. So this economic transformation is happening all over the world. So we have to decide, how do we think? Are we going to be thinking differently? Are we going to be thinking out of the box? Are we going to be thinking, how are we going to be thinking going forward? And, we need to have that courage to think differently and explore the barriers, because this is the new way of doing things. And if you look at the world, the one thing we know, the only constant that we have around us is, of course, change. And this virus is bringing lots of opportunities. And I'll talk about these opportunities, and I highlighted earlier the business opportunities in the makeup industry, for example. But as resellers, as a company like Rectron, as a company like Microsoft, they already have these opportunities, these platforms like Azure, for example, the ability to order components online, because these are the tools that the workers of tomorrow are going to need. The workers of tomorrow are certainly not going to go back to the offices anytime soon. And this is why there's a necessity for things like using big data, using analytics, using AI. And businesses need this kind of help, because it's that business intelligence that's going to make the difference between how a business is going to succeed today versus how a business is going to succeed tomorrow. And, you know, the democratization of technology has given us all of these tools, you know, at a low cost, at the digital aspect, being able to do stuff digitally without having to have any human contact is now a reality. And this is the world that we're living in today. And it's a really exciting world in many senses, but I'm sure that there's a lot of anxiety for many people. Many people's businesses are really going down the line. I mean, I'll give you an example. You know, my business, you know, apart from what I'm doing over here, I've also got a beauty business. You know, in the sorbet business, as you know, the beauty business is dead right now. I had to think out of the box. I had to look at different applications to scale up an e-commerce platform so that my customers can still get delivery of certain packages and products, engaging with my customers. And this is the most important thing, is the engagement of customers. And I'm just finding over this COVID period, I'm amazed at how many companies and how many businesses don't get the understanding of the importance of engaging with customers and getting new business. Because if you've already got your customer base, there's no excuse not to engage with your customer. I was talking about Teams earlier and how the Teams have been scaled up, and I know Microsoft's on a cusp of a new change to Teams, of allowing more people simultaneously on the screen to collaborate. And what the future of this coronavirus and the future of this business is all about: agility. We need to be agile in the world that we're living in today. And if you look at the work video adoption in most countries around the world, this is just France, Germany, Italy, and China that you're seeing in front of you. And you look at these countries and you look at France, for example, and you look at Germany, and you look at how many people tried video conferencing for the first time in a business sense, and how many people are using it a lot more. So the platform that we're using right now, which is Teams, you've obviously heard of Zoom, and there's Skype, and there's all sorts of other ways of doing business, but this is the new way of doing business. It's all going to be done via video. So you've got to have the right technologies. And these challenges that are being posed to us right now, as I mentioned earlier, looking at the impossible, there's nothing like impossible, because the greatest challenges bring the greatest opportunities, because there are opportunities in every single business today to A, do things better, B, add more agility, C, to add more technological input into those businesses to enable them and unlock the value that's within these organizations. And I mean, if you look at these guys over here, if you watch Formula One and you look at this Red Bull team, this is a record that was broken. When I talk about collaboration and I talk about agility in a work sense, you can apply this next example to any of the examples that I've been using. And look at these records. When you have a Formula One car coming in there, and within a space of 2 seconds, under 2 seconds, 1.82 seconds, you've changed the tires, you've added fuel, you've equipped this car to do a lot better, and off the car goes back into the race. 1.82 seconds, that's the world record. And this is what I'm talking about, collaboration and agility. Now, in the technological sense, this is what this is bringing to the world. And this is what we all have to do, is we have to help our customers bring that agility, that collaboration to organizations by adding the value and asking them where we can assist. So we mustn't ignore the security aspects, because I think security is going to pose enormous challenges as it's doing already. The amount of phishing attacks that we are seeing right now is just shooting through the roof. There is an incredible amount of phishing. And when you have so many people working remotely, and you've got intellectual property and personal information of organizations at the touch of our fingertips, how is that information properly protected? You look at the POPI Act and you look at the vulnerabilities that systems bring. All of a sudden, we've gone out of a corporate workforce. We're working outside of this area, And now we have the vulnerabilities of cybersecurity, and this is going to pose massive challenges, as we've already seen. Many corporations, they're not talking about it, but we've already had a few attacks and breaches in cybersecurity because we've kind of opened up this Pandora's box where we've got people working all over the place, and it poses its own challenges. So when is this coronavirus going to end, and how is this process going to be accelerated to this new way of working? It's going to be interesting because business continuity has got to continue. It's up to us to help that business continuity, continue seamlessly without any issues. It's quite interesting that when you look at the current situation that we're operating under, the stats that are coming out about people working from home, okay, there's a little bit fatigue with all these video conferences that are going on, and some people are working. I don't know about you guys, but I'm personally finding myself working a lot harder than I was before. But the research is finding that there's a 25% reduction in employee turnover. So less people are wanting to leave because they're currently happy in that environment that they're working in, and they're working a lot more efficiently. And here's the interesting thing, that 77% of people that are working outside of the workforce and working remotely, 77% of these people, and bear in mind, this is millions of people around the world, they are finding that they are more productive working this particular way, and this is the astounding news about this working remotely, is that 77% of people, and that's most of the workforce that's working remotely, are finding that they are more productive working like this than they were before. So you've got to ask yourself the question, how many companies are going to go back to what was before? We're not going back to what was before. So we need to start looking at what is next and where we are going to be as a business and where the future of work lies, because this is where the future of work lies. And if you even look at the other stats, then this is prior to Corona. And by the way, what Corona has done is it's accelerated everything in fast forward. You know, if you remember that fast forward button, if you were one of the generation who remembered cassette decks like I did, I know I'm giving my age away, right? But when you clicked on that fast forward button, it moved everything like 10 times faster. This is what has happened. This is what Corona has just done. It's flicked a switch and it's forced us all to move fast forward. And by 2025, we're looking at more than half of the current workplace tasks that we're currently doing are going to be performed by machines, as opposed to 29% at the moment. So we're seeing this massive, massive adoption of technology, of AI, of automation, of robotics, and it's now been accelerated by Corona. So we need to hold on fast, and we need to be agile, and we need to be prepared for what's coming, and we need to have the tools that we have at our disposal right now to be able to share those tools with others and share those services to the other people. And of course, 5G is one of those technologies that's going to drive the adoption of all of these technologies. I'm currently testing at the moment Vodacom's 5G service. And if you thought that LTE or 4G was fast in your world, 5G is going to change everything around us. In my area where I'm at the moment, I'm using 5G. I'm coming to you via fiber connectivity, but 5G is 10 times faster than my current LTE connection. That's what I'm experiencing at the moment. It's not a theoretical answer that I'm giving you. It is something that is physically happening right now, that 5G on a mobile device that I'm experiencing and the connectivity that I'm experiencing is real, and it's going to be accelerated even further. So in the next 14 to 18 months, you're going to be 5G is going to be all over the place, and is going to be enabling and unlocking so much more value in organizations, because the biggest challenge that we have in a country like South Africa is the connectivity of people, right? Because people are struggling to connect. Not everybody has 5G, not everybody has access to LTE, not everybody has access to fiber. So we've still got a lot of the workforce that is constricted in terms of the cost of the data and the availability of the data. So all of these things are going to change, and we are accelerating at a really rapid pace because of these things that are happening around us. So when you look at the future of work and you look at where we are going, the communicating and the commuting is never going to be the same again. As you know, I do the traffic on 702, and even now that we're on level 3, the traffic volumes are nowhere like they are on a normal morning. And if you look at the main highways, I was talking to Sanral the other day, and they were telling me that the volumes on the roads right now are 70% lower than what they were at the same time last year. So take Corona out of the picture and look at where we are right now. Even though people are going to work, even though some supermarkets are open, we are commuting less. So this is one of the impacts that the future of work is going to have. We're going to have a lot more flexibility, flexibility with our time, flexibility to do things and add more value. As I said earlier, the offices are all going to become decentralized. So all these offices that you're seeing in the CBD, I know that the banks, for example, are, as we speak right now, looking and finalizing, converting the existing office space that they have into a residential space. So we're going to see residential space shifting, office space shifting, and this is where the world is going, because all these offices are going to be decentralized. We need to start rethinking about meetings and how meetings are going to be taking place. If you think that this is cool right now, where we're talking via video and you're watching me and it's all cool, imagine in future where I will be able to touch you and you'll be able to touch me. When you look at virtual reality, which is also becoming a reality, and Microsoft have got some incredible products which I've trialed there. You have this virtual reality where people are literally sitting around you, and you've got that haptic feedback that you actually feel like you're actually touching a specific object. This is the world that we're living in, and we're not far from it. It's coming to us at a faster pace than most of us think. And then bringing balance between work and life, because right now, the time that most people have been spending commuting before Corona and working, I think that this is bringing a new dimension to our personal lives, where we will be able to spend more time with our families. We will be able to have more time to ourselves, more time to do the things that we want to do, but at the same time, be very, very productive in the workspace. So when you look at the world that we're living in, ladies and gentlemen, it is so exciting there. The future is now. The future is happening in front of us. The future is happening. We need to grasp it. We need to look at it and look at those opportunities, because there are just so many opportunities right now. The innovation is causing mass disruption around the world. Whether it's going to be machine learning, for example, whether we are going to be using different e-commerce methods in the future via our networks.
Sorry, Aki, we seem to be having some sound issues on your side.
There we go. Thank you very much. Okay, so can you hear me okay? So this is where we are, folks, and this is the world that we're living in today. It's an extraordinary, extraordinary world, and a very, very exciting world at the same time.
Thank you so much for that, Aki. Okay, so we have a question from Stuart, quite an interesting one. Stuart saying, your views on 5G related health issues. The media has spoken a lot around this.
Yeah, no, I love it. And thank you for the question, Stuart. It's a great question, because, I mean, throughout this Corona phase, right at the beginning, we had people around the world saying that this virus has been caused by 5G towers that are all over the place. There's no proof that 5G causes any specific health issues. And there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there, and there's conspiracy theorists as well. But the science and the data and the research that has been conducted shows nothing of the sort. 5G at the moment is safe. It is well within the parameters of the World Health Organization parameters of radiation, and it poses no threat to our health. So, I think that there's a lot of conspiracy theory around this particular topic, but as it stands right now, there's no physical proof or theoretical proof that there is any danger to our health.
Thank you for that, Aki. The next question from Kurt, will 2G and 3G still be working once 5G comes in?
Yeah, that's also a great question. I mean, I was talking to the networks, and we're actually quite lucky in South Africa. We talk about the fact that the data is expensive, but we've got a big country to cover, and as we speak right now, most of the country is covered by 3G. So I still think that 3G will stay there as a technology. 2G is going to become a redundant technology going forward, and 4G is going to be a very critical technology going forward as it bridges the gap between 3G and 5G. And I think that you'll have a lot more broader coverage of 4G across the country, but you're going to see, 2G, for example, edge, what do they call it? I even forget the name of, there was another name for 2G, but anyway, but 3G will stay, 4G is going to stay, and until 5G accelerates, it's got a slightly different way of communicating. You need a lot more towers, but you can get to a lot more people. The latency of 5G is superb, but to answer your question, I think that 3G, well, not I think 3G is going to stay for a bit, but 2G, I'm pretty sure in the next few months, many of those towers are going to be disconnected.
Thank you, Aki. Next question from Jacques. With the increase in cyber attacks, do you think there is a direct connection to the amount of people working from home? And what role do you think the bring your own device will play in this?
Yeah, that's also a fantastic question, Jacques. I touched on it earlier, and I think that out of all of this entire process that we've been talking about, everybody's been so focused on the virus, the coronavirus I'm talking about, that we haven't really placed as much emphasis as we have on cybersecurity. And yes, I think there are a lot more vulnerabilities right now. We are seeing some phishing attacks. I've heard some horrific stories from organizations that have been pretty hard hit by people that have been, working from home, that you think you're doing something. I'll give an example. There's a story of a guy who was working at one of the big banks, which I'm not going to name, but you had his son working in the same room, and just looking at his dad and looked at how his dad operates the computer, had access to the passports. You could see what the passwords were that his dad was using to access the banking systems, and off he did, and he was just fooling around, and he caused a crash in some of the big servers in one of the big banks, which I'm not going to name. But these are the kinds of loopholes and realities that we still have to kind of iron out and look at how we're going to secure things even more going forward, because the reality is that when you have so many people working remotely, there are going to be security lapses, and the deployment of the cybersecurity experts, I think, is still coming, and I think that the corporate world is going to have to tighten up considerably on security, especially as we're working more remotely. So yeah, absolutely, we are going to see a lot more of these kind of phishing attacks, and personal information and intellectual property of organizations. Remember, you're now outside the company and you have access to what's happening inside the company. So that poses tremendous challenges which we haven't quite overcome yet.
Thank you, Aki. Another question for you from Marcel Herber from Excel Graphics. Can you please give some scope of which workplace tasks might be moved specifically towards automations and machines in light of COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I mean, a lot of the tasks that are currently being moved across, we aren't even aware of that are already happening. And if you look at when you are interacting with companies like Rectron, for example, a lot of those tasks that are happening in the background are being automated, that there is no human being. So I think what is being enabled is the fact that we're adding a lot more agility and a lot more systems processes to the way we do things. And I'll give another example in terms of shopping, that if you look at when you are shopping and you are ordering something from Woolworths, for example, I'll give an example that they've introduced this new curbside pickup, that you can go and pick up your stock from Woolworths. The only interaction that is handled by a human being when an order is done by yourself online is the person that actually physically takes the stock, picks the stock and brings it to your car. Everything else is just happening simultaneously in the background. And this is all because of the cloud capabilities. This is all because of AI that's been happening, that is able to work out the logistics of supply chain management, which stores have what stock, etc. So it's happening in the background, and there are people that are finding solutions to the problems that the things that take up a lot of our personal time that can be seamlessly done in the background, like I mentioned earlier, those tasks that are going to be enabled by technology going forward into the future.
Thank you, Aki. I think let's do one last question.
Sure.
So one last question from Bongo Ntombela. How do you get new clients in this new era without having face-to-face meetings when most decision makers still want to actually meet in person?
Bongo, I absolutely love your question. And I love your question because, yes, we are working remotely. Yes, you don't have access to clients. But yes, the world that we're living in today is all about connections, right? We talk about the death of distance and how this coronavirus has brought us all so apart. But when you look at the distance that has been created in between us, it's just physical distance. The distance of connectivity has never been better. The distance of finding new clients, looking for new opportunities has never been better. And I'll give you another example. How many of you, and I've done this with a lot of my clients as well, how many of you people have picked up the phone or sent a message or sent an email to propose something new, to suggest something new? Have you checked your cybersecurity? Do you need any help in setting up more collaboration tools within your organization? Because the moment you start a conversation with someone about collaboration tools and adding agility to your organization, do you know that most people, even though right now we have so many of us on this Teams call and we feel comfortable sitting in front of our computers, do you know how many people don't know how to do this stuff? How many people are still incredibly threatened and intimidated by this technology? And setting it up is a challenge for many people. But when you start engaging and making contact with your existing customer base, you'll be surprised how it all spreads out, how the link spreads out. Go to your customers right now. Start with your initial database. Go and see what support services can you offer. Do you need help in setting up teams? Have you got enough webcams? Do we need to order more computing power for you? Do we need to go up into the cloud, into Azure, for example, and look at what's available to make your business more agile? Do we need to get to Rectron and see what kind of hardware they've got that will enable you to do more of the conference calls that you're talking about? Is your microphone okay? Is your webcam okay? So yes, Bonga, there are massive opportunities that this poses, but we can all sit back and say, well, I don't have contact with people. Or we can go and reach out, social networks, your current customer base. The key here is to engage with your customers on a frequent basis. I'm surprised, to be very honest with you, how many organizations, and I include the big banks, for example, and insurance companies that have just held back on engaging. This is exactly what Rectron is doing right now and Microsoft are doing right now. They're engaging with their customers. So in the same way that they're engaging, there's got to be that engagement with you and your customers by calling your customers, getting in touch with your customers, ask how's it going? How are you coping? Is there anything that I can do to assist to make your business more productive, to introduce more collaboration, more agility to your organization? So there are many opportunities out there.
Thank you, Aki. To everyone in the audience, thank you so much for all of your questions. Unfortunately, we don't have time to answer any more questions live, but Aki, I think maybe we can work on answering some of the questions privately in the chat.
Absolutely, Elaine. Thank you so much, Elaine.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Marilyn, let's hand over to you to introduce the next speakers.
Thank you, Aki. What an insightful presentation there on the outlook of the future post-COVID. Now, coming up next, we have Caroline. Caroline is a young soul in IT who has fulfilled various roles in channel sales and marketing for the past 8 years. Caroline's primary responsibility currently is developing the consumer and SMB business for Microsoft at Rectron as a distributor champ. And right after Caroline, I will be speaking to you. So my name is Marilyn. I'm the product manager for Microsoft, the FPP business. And I have over 19 years experience in the IT industry. My passion really lies in generating and maximizing revenue and creating effective marketing and sales distribution strategies and making sure that I deliver unparalleled customer service. My unique and wide-ranging skill set has enabled me to successfully contribute in a variety of roles, including product management, accounts management, as well as marketing. Over to you, Caroline.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. My name is Caroline Masondo, and I am here at Rectron as a Disty Champ. I'm here to help you grow your business with Office. We all know that every device needs Office, and if your customers are not getting it from you, they're probably getting it from somewhere else. There is a big opportunity to make money when you offer a complete solution to your customers with Microsoft. This saves you time and also saves you a lot of money. We do get a lot of objections when we upsell Office. We need to explain to the customers that buying Office from a trusted supplier guarantees that you are getting genuine software. Buying from online sites and getting cheaper solutions does not always mean that you're using licensed products. That is in turn increasing digital risks for your customers, hackers, and put your business in danger. We can assure that customers that we offer trusted solutions and also not forgetting to sell the right products to the right customers. Every device needs Office. This is a new term that Microsoft likes to use because it provides easy messaging. It provides easy messages for customers to understand and a more efficient way for you to close a sale. Helps you recommend Office Business Premium first, more often and earlier in the sale, and helps you sell more Office and a complete solution to your customer. This messaging in turn gives you an opportunity to make sure that you do offer Office at the first base of your quotation. If you do this, that guarantees you that you are going to sell Office, and that means extra money in your pocket. Choosing the right Office can always sometimes be tricky. You need to understand what kind of products you are selling, and we at Rectron, as the product managers and as I, the Disty Champ, are here to help you with that. Your account managers are also here to help you with answering those questions from your customers. Questions such as, what will you be using your device for? Is the device for work or personal use? That ensures us that we are actually selling the correct products to the correct customers. We have at Rectron 2 categories of Office that we offer to our customers: the consumer SKUs and the commercial SKUs. Choosing the right Office needs, you have to know the distinction between the two. So consumer, we've got 3 products in consumer, which are your Microsoft 365 family. That is for family members of up to, you can load this product up to 6 devices. We've got personal, this is only for one person use, and we've got home and student. Home and student is mostly for students who do not really need Outlook in their office. So commercial SKUs are very, very important because these are the SKUs that we usually sell to SMBs, which are our customers at the end of the day. So here you've got a quick comparison I'm showing you a quick comparison of the commercial SKUs and what the differences are. Home and business and business premium are those that we would like to lead with because these are specially generated for SMBs and they're not really suitable for home use. If you sell home use products to an SMB customer, they will not be getting all the apps that they need, and we need to be careful of that because sometimes we'll be selling products with extra apps that the customer doesn't really need. So this comparison will be readily available if you need it, and we can supply it for you so that you can know which products to sell to which customers. So the most important thing that we're trying to lead with at Rectron is trying to make sure that every device leaves with Office. So we call that attach. So why should a customer buy attach with us? It saves you time, which means that you don't need to be shopping around for Office. you actually, where you buying, you can get a full service with us. Where you buy your machine devices, you can also get your office. Saves you money because at the end of the day, we do give you an upfront discount, which Microsoft has offered us, which we are passing on to you. There's an upfront discount where you can actually save up to 500 Rand per box of Office. So yeah, buying attached saves you time, saves you money, and guarantees that you'll be buying the correct product for the correct customer. And right now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Marilyn, who will be talking to you about the re-imaging of business. Thank you.
Hi guys. Yeah, so I'm Marilyn and I'm going to be talking to you around reimagining business in this COVID environment. Right, so the COVID-19 virus has really created a national crisis. We've experienced a level of destruction that will change everything that has been the norm in IT. There's a need for different strategies around sales and marketing. There has not only been a major change in the way your customers conduct business, but in the way employees do their business, as well as how consumers manage their finances. So we need to look at strategies that will help us to bring in more business to get us back to where we were. So I'm just going to give you a few strategies that we are using that you also can use to make sure that we maximize business. So the first one is around customer service. We need to make it easy for customers to connect with you. So ensure that at all times you are available for your customers. Do not leave money on the table. We need to change the way we were doing things. We need to ensure that we move to solution sales if you haven't already done so. Really look at your offering. Look at what saves your customer time. Look at what takes away the hassle from them for looking for components or solutions everywhere. Re-engineer your solutions so that you help with the coronavirus concerns. Working from home has presented problems for businesses, but for you as a reseller, it has also presented opportunities. It has presented an opportunity for you to upgrade those customers that are still on Windows 7, to upgrade them to Windows 10. What Windows 10 Pro does is it offers security. Now more than ever, we need to ensure that all those that are working from home are protected. Remember, what we're saying is customers are taking home your company's information, and this information needs to be secure. So Windows 10 Pro offers a layer of security where it's encrypted and you know that data cannot be shared where it's not intended to go. Another strategy is for you to create bite-sized sales offerings that speak to your customer making a saving. And just to reiterate on what Caroline spoke about, remember to lead with a device. Every time your customer is asking you for a quotation on a device, ensure that you attach Office on it. So another thing is to ensure that we're selling the right solution at all times. Microsoft 365 Family, formerly known as Office 365 Home, is not a solution for business. We've seen a lot of mislicensing around this, this product. It is not meant for business. Understand that Microsoft does conduct trying to think of the right word. They do check on licenses. They do check if you're licensed correctly. Do not have your customer to be found wanting, having the wrong solution, using Microsoft 365 family in a work environment. Understand that when they find, they will not, I don't think they would want to continue doing business with someone that's offering them the wrong solution. So this is part of you being of service to your customer, ensuring that they've got the right solution for their business. So with a touch, what a touch does is you having an upfront discount on Office, which you in turn can offer to your customer. So understand that when you buy an Office package on its own, you're paying the full price. But when you're buying it attached to a device, you're getting that discount, which you're passing on to your customer. And at this point in time, every customer appreciates a little saving as it's going a long way. Show some love to your customers. Show them that you care about your business and you are in this together with them. Now, I'm just going to talk about how you can also make profitability around Windows Server. So, just to move a little bit back, let me expand a little on other things that you can use to just ensure that you stay in business. So you've had relationships that you've been leaning on, your customers that have been buying from you before, but maybe currently they're quiet. Ensure that you offer them, like you reconnect on all your active sales prospects, and just make sure that your relationship comes to play. How do you support your customer right now in a meaningful and in a human way? So ensure that you package your product such that it's not about you taking advantage of your customer, but you exhibit an emotional way and you communicate with care and honesty and empathy. Build trust. And what we saw from going on lockdown, it's not like anybody anticipated that we were going that way. But what we realized was some of the things that we were talking about, the learnings that we were trying to pass on to our resellers, they came to work. We always got excuses when we spoke around ESD. So ESD is our digital offering on the products that we have on the box products. So you've got your Office, Home and Business. You've got your Office. Sorry, you've got your Office, Home and Business. You've got your Office, Home and Student. So we've got your Microsoft 365 Family, Microsoft 365 Personal. All those, including Windows 10, are available on ESD. So it's the same product, just being digitally delivered to you. When we closed down during lockdown, what happened is demand did not die down. Those that managed to stay in business and those that managed to trade whilst other businesses were closed were buying ESD and still delivering to their customers. Because remember, this is the time that a lot of businesses realized that they cannot stop trading, and as such, they still needed to connect, and they still needed to ensure that business goes on. And as such, in order to connect and work remotely, they needed Windows 10 Pro. This was being delivered via ESD. So just to give you a bit of advantages of buying ESD versus the box product is that it's delivered quickly. So you place your order now, either with your account manager or online. You place your order. Within a matter of minutes, you're getting the delivery of your license on email. You can in turn forward it through to your customer. All they need to do is to click on the link and they have Office installed on their device. The other thing is ESD offers you long-term profitability because you don't have to stock ESD. All you need to do is to get your Office as soon as you get your order. No need to stock, no delivery costs, time saving in that once you get it, you forward it on to your customer, they get it, and then they've got access to the product. You can cross-sell, you can upsell. It's automated. It saves everyone time, it saves you money, your stock doesn't age as you sell it, as you buy it only when you need it. So understand that you also need to maximize profitability by offering the best solution, the correct solution, and upsell and cross-sell. Expand your reach. Now more than ever, you need to use digital platforms to ensure that you're delivering your product and you are not limited to delivering to only those customers that you know. A Facebook post on just to advertise that you do sell offers, to promote a Facebook post is, I mean, it's really next to nothing. You can sell to anyone, anywhere. You're not limited to say you can only sell to those customers in Gauteng because you're a reseller in Gauteng. So take up these opportunities. And then next up, I'm just going to talk around maximizing profitability with Windows Server. So SMB customers want servers to meet their growing business needs and ever-increasing demand for security. Remember, when your customer speaks of the intention to buy a server, it's only the beginning of the sales conversation. So for these customers, it is not enough for you to just sell the server and you walk away because that is what they ask for. Do not fail to take advantage of add-ons. Remember, you need to understand the cores that they have. Sell them CALs, sell them data centers. Do not leave money on the table. It is time to maximize. Resellers who understand this take better care of their customers and make more money. Selling server opens up enormous opportunities. By owning the server transaction, you can gain a strategic foothold with your customers that enables you to sell more solutions. Understand what other apps they're going to use on the server. And from there, the conversation can then go to understand with the apps that they need, can you provide them with the right apps? What are they going to be using the server for? Who will be connecting to the server? So in order to increase your revenue, add other margin-rich categories that can then in turn help you to make profit. For instance, at Rectron, if you are going to offer a customer the solution for a PC, don't just end with the office conversation. Do they need a mouse? Do they need a bag? Offer them a solution such that next time they know they need an IT solution, they'll come to you because they find everything under one roof. So always ask yourself these questions. Why must I sell Windows Server 2019? This is my opportunity to attach CALs. This is the way that I can boost my revenue. And this is the way that I can serve my customer. Because as a business, you are there to serve your customers. Now, just a call to action. From what Caroline and I have spoken about, this is what we are saying we need you as our resellers to do. We need you to attach Office to every laptop. Lead with the device, and then Office must be attached. Sell the right version of Office to your customers. Ensure that they're using the correct Office in the environment. Choose digital first. Remember, everyone is taking precaution in order to protect themselves. Instead of the box product, deliver ESD. Modernize your platforms so that you realize more revenue. I'm just going to go through some of the incentives that we have. We understand that these are times where everyone just needs to make as much as possible and to save wherever they can. So we've got in market a cashback. Now this cashback, how it's working is that it's broken down into tiers, where when you purchase Office, a number of products, you get a certain amount. So the maximum that you can get from buying standalone Office is 20,000. But if you're going to attach to 25% of your orders, you actually stand to take away 25,000 rands. Now, in this difficult time, I mean, why leave money on the table? In terms of attaching, remember that when you buy a notebook and you attach Office, you are saving 500 rands. Do not leave money on the table. It's time to maximize profitability. It's time to make sure that whatever incentives we have, you're taking part in. Now, these the Office Attach offer, we have it in market at all times. Speak to your account manager, speak to Caroline, speak to myself. We're always ready to help. In terms of the cashback, it's in market until end of June, so we've got a few days for you to take advantage of this. And as Rectron, as a team, Microsoft team, we're here to serve, we're here to help. In terms of offering support, we're here to support. During lockdown, we were there. We've got a support team that ensures that when you're having issues with installation, we're there to help. Caroline and myself made sure that we use this time to also upskill ourselves. We are now at a level where we can help our customers with installation. So guys, this is the offering that we have for you from us, and we're always here to serve and ready to help. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Marilyn. We can now take some questions from the audience.
So, coming up next, we have Gavin. Gavin has been in the IT industry for 2 decades, fulfilling various roles in channel sales and product training. Gavin's primary responsibility currently is sales and product training for all Microsoft device sales through various channels, accountable for multinationals, distribution, and commercial reseller partners. Over to you, Gavin.
Thank you, Marilyn. Good morning, everybody. And I was just so happy to work from home, because when I saw the weather this morning, not having to drive to the office is just so amazing. So what I'm going to do is just go through some of our portals. So some of the portals and some of the tools and assets that we actually have available for you to use. And Aki, I think, spoke about it quite well around how do you engage with your customer? How do you talk to your customer? How do you stay relevant? How do you, like send out information? And it is really critical and getting that message across around what is available. And as we pivot to, people purchasing online and people using e-commerce platforms more often, what can we do to help you from a Microsoft point of view to actually to assist you to sell? And so I'm going to go through some of that, some of the stuff that we have available to you to use. So let's just get into it. So Device Partner Center, so the website is devicepartner.microsoft.com, and what you'll find on this is really like a bunch of information that will help you in your day-to-day. So again, we have marketing tools and brand assets around all of our products. So whether you're selling Windows and you're trying to get customers off Windows 7 after the end of support, or Office end of support coming up, and you're trying to move their customers off that, and you need information, you need flyers, you need brand information, you need licensing information. All of that kind of stuff can be found on the Partner Center. So just you can register on there. You don't need to be an MPN member, so you don't need to be a Microsoft Partner Network member to do this. You can get on there and register, and you can have access to all of this kind of information. I know that information is key when you're selling to customers, and you want to make sure that you're giving the most accurate, up-to-date information. And so Device Partner Center gives you that. And what it looks like from that point of view, it's just going to have a whole bunch of stuff. Like this is just a screenshot of actually some of the assets that we have available. So some of the information that Carolyn and Marilyn spoke to you about now was around, like home and business. How do we get customers, to move off the old version of Office, which is becoming end of support soon, onto the new version. And Office 2019 is obviously the latest version of Home and Business. And then we have campaign assets, we have videos that you could use, and all of these assets have a place for you to then put in your logo and then put in your information again. So you'll say, dear partner or dear customer, put in your information, and all of this can be sent out to your customer, giving them the relevant information around why they should move. And again, you can customize this or just use that information to obviously communicate the most valuable and up-to-date information around the products to your customers. So great first portal to get onto Device Partner Center. And again, this information, if you require it, reach out to Caroline or Marilyn, and they'll be able to share with you the links and the assets to where to find these portals. The other one is Expert Zone. So Marilyn said she was upskilling herself. So because I'm a trainer, this is one of my most important portals that I want to talk to you about. And this is Expert Zone. And this is where we put all of our training information. So I know Microsoft has tons of training information and certifications and all that kind of stuff. But what this is geared around your salespeople or you as a salesperson. How do I sell to my customers? What are the key bits of information that I need to know, and what I can deliver to my customers? And we have updated this. It's desktop friendly now, or you can use it from your mobile phone. And there's quizzes. There's also downloadable content. So there's things like telesales guides, discussion guides, which can help if you have staff who are sitting in the office and speaking to your customers and trying to sell to your customers over the phone. How, what are the things that they should be calling out and saying to the customers? The website is expertzone.microsoft.com. Again, there's just tons of information available there for you to use. We've also made it really snackable size content. So the best part of it is you're not going to spend hours having to learn about something. We've broken it down into very small, like not even minute-sized chunks of information, if you want to call it that. We've updated with things around Teams. So again, if you need to know, what's happening with Teams, what are the kind of things the tips and tricks that I need to know around Teams, or how do I sell it, and what are those key things that my customers should know about it? It's on there. Remote working. We have guides around like working from home, staying connected. What are the best tips and tricks around that kind of stuff? Marilyn spoke about server. Obviously, we have some server information, like how to migrate, why to migrate, how to get the best out of in terms of revenue and licensing and all that kind of stuff there as well. And then selling skills, which is the most important part of it, which is what the platform is actually built for, is like, how do you help sell more, and so I do have just a bit of a, this is one of the latest courses that we have there, modules that we have there, how to sell Home and Business 2019 to SMB customers. What are the key things that they have on there? And there's actually some, stats and figures. They are global, but it also gives you an indication of like how much % of customers, are transitioning, working from home, and what are those key things that we could tell them. Tell your customer about Home and Business and why they should be buying it. And obviously, if they're on Office 2010, we want to make sure that they realize that, the end of support, and this is what's going to help them, help you and your salespeople get that bit of information to get there. The other little cool thing that we want to talk to you about is the Office Attach widget. So I think Marilyn that said that if you don't sell it to your customer, somebody will, they'll buy it from somebody else, and we don't want that to happen. And I think it's around 70% of customers will purchase the Office from the same channel that they bought their device from. And we also want to make sure that if you have an online store, if you have online presence and you're selling digitally via e-commerce platform, that you have Office next to the device as well, because most of the time that's where it's going to be most important. When people buy a device, for some unknown reason, still they think that Office still comes with the device, or they don't realize which version of Office they should be getting. Again, where Karen talked about this licensing, should I buy Office 365 Home or now Microsoft 365 Family? Is that one okay for me, or should I be buying Home and Business 2019? So which one should I be choosing, and what do I get with it? And so the Office Attach widget does that. And what it looks like, this is just kind of like, you'll see that in the little, this is the Save Now campaign that we used to have, but it can just say, Office Buy Now button, and then when you click through there, you'll touch on that, hover over that, and it'll give you a breakdown of what those products are, and then you can add to cart. And again, you can sell this via your FPP product. What it is doing is just putting the Office package into the customer's cart, and he can continue to look for another device if he wants, or if he's happy with this device, they can purchase it. These are the kind of logos. So again, logo examples, depending on what site you have, depending on how much space you have. I know it's very orange right now, but as we pivot more to Microsoft 365 Family and Personal and Home and Business 2019, obviously the orange has changed a little bit. I'm sure you have seen that already if you've been onto our portals. And again, so this is just kind of like what it looks like, the widget, what it looks like. You hover over, or you click on, it's going to give you a whole bunch of information around the product, what's included, what's not included, what you get with it. Again, from both points of view of consumer versus commercial products. And again, just helping you to attach as much as possible. We don't want to, again, like we said, we want to attach Office to every device, but it's more than that, right? It's making sure that the basket size that you get from your customer, is relevant, is as big, as comprehensive as possible, ensuring that the customer is getting everything that they need, and they're getting the correct products that they need as well, and providing that information from this is really beneficial. And again, we have some stats and figures and trackable information from this. And again, if you need any of this information, we'll be able to support you through Rectron and Marilyn and Caroline. The other little bit of information is, I always get this one wrong, so I'm going to read this. The Microsoft Digital Commerce and Campaign Network, which is the DCCN, which is again also about content. It's all about making your website, as up to date as possible with the latest information that we have that we have available. So this is just like a banner, and there's no cost. Again, all of these things are free. There's no cost involved in it. What it is, it's a banner, but it is a drop down, and so what it does is it gives you an open window into the latest bit of information around that Office offering, and you can gauge the impact, and you can measure it by metrics and all that kind of stuff. You can resize it. What I'll just do is go through like what it looks like. So this is the Office campaign, but we also have server and Windows, and we even have IoT here. And again, from our box product point of view, we're from the device partner sales team, so we look after the boxed products. So this is more engaged around the end of support and talking about our box products information. But let's say you chose a campaign and the end of support for 2010, you would pick that campaign up. You would have to go and look at it. It's a bit of code that you could then drop in, or you could email that to whoever looks after your website. And then once that goes on there, you'll see that you have a whole bunch of rich information around what it is and what's happening. We talked about modernization of your PC and your environment, and that means buying new laptops, which we saw a lot of, right? But we want to make sure that when you're buying new laptops, that you have the opportunity to attach Office to that as well. So that's really key. And this information is really rich and up to date. It always stays up to date, so you don't have to worry about having something that's old on there. And there's some key dates happening on that slide there. I actually have my question coming up next, right? So I have my question coming up next. So the Q&A, we were going to do the Q&A. So I'm going to ask my question in this very next slide. So be ready to answer that, because there is a prize attached to that. So I'm going to click onto my next slide, and hopefully you get that. So what is the end of support date for Office 2010? So that is my cue question back to you in order to win a prize. I'm trying to get down to the bottom. Yeah. And so that is that. So that is currently my question, and you just type it into the Q&A, the answer to that, in order to win a prize. So hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully that that is really helpful or beneficial to you. If you need all the links to all these portals, please again feel free to reach out through Marilyn and Caroline. We'll be able to help you with all that kind of information and be able to set this up if you have an e-commerce platform. But again, a lot of the information on MSDCCN is also just emailers that you could send out, and there's flyers, there's things that you can also put in the store, there's things like stickers and videos. So there's a ton of content that we can help you with as you move to a digital or try different ways to engage with your customers. Yeah, so some people are getting it. Some people are getting it. Okay, the month, be more specific than the month. Yeah. Justin, you were very close. Yeah, Justin, you were a day off, Justin. Chantal, it's a little bit earlier than December. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the 13th of October 2020 will be the end of support date. So again, we want to make sure that as we talked about modernization, which is just, as people are buying new laptops, as people are buying new PCs, that we're attaching the latest version of Office onto that. We don't, there's a ton of great new features within Office 2019. Things like better presentations, features like Morph and Zoom, more Excel's, budget sheets available in Excel. Word has things like Dictate and being able to ink on the device, with touch devices and with pen input. Outlook has at mentions, and there's just tons and tons of features. But again, all those portals can help you show the value of that product to the customer, and not just taking their old Office and attaching it to their new device, but actually buying new Office with their new device. So the next slide, and that's the end of my story, my presentation. I'm going to hand over to Yesh now, who's going to take us through the next part. Marilyn.
Thank you, Gavin. So next up, we have Yesh. Yesh is no stranger to the IT community, and having served well over 25 years in IT, he has had the privilege to work with some of the largest brands in IT. Being an avid technologist with industry experience in sales, marketing, product management, product development, and business management, he also enjoyed extensive multicultural and multinational expertise across multiple regions. As the device sales lead for Microsoft South Africa, his primary responsibility is maintaining the device ecosystem, multinationals, distributors, and commercial resellers, and the respective Microsoft products and solutions with his well-established team of specialists building Microsoft's intelligent edge. You can take it from here, Yesh.
Sounds good, and good morning to everybody. I do hope that I'm coming out loud and clear, and that you are visible on your screens. So thank you very much for the opportunity and the introduction, Marilyn. Yeah, so really good to have you as an opportunity today. I know it's been a long session so far, so thanks for hanging in there, guys. It really is awesome to have you guys so active. I mean, you're an amazing audience this far, and I mean, I'm loving the interaction, the chats, and the questions. So please keep it going. It's not going to be much further, and I know it's pretty cold out there today. I do hope that you all can enjoy a really good coffee post this discussion. So firstly, again, like I said, thank you very much. In the next 20 minutes, I want to talk to you about the impact that the pandemic COVID-19 has had on our market, but specifically in the IT sector of South Africa, you know, it's really something we've been looking at and hoping that, and assuming that there'll be some sort of stability in the trajectory for 2020. It's yet to be seen, unfortunately. But certainly what I thought I'd do today was get some collective view. Okay, so I have my view, and perhaps you know that there's certainly different views of different individuals on this call. But if you take a collective view and you look at overall, I don't know that anyone's got one single answer on this challenge today. But I am convinced that the more we can share ideas, the more we can have these kind of connects. And I think it's quite apt to that, you know, we've chosen this kind of word connect today, that we can share ideas and opportunities. We can each support each other in the ICT community. And it'll be certainly helpful as we tread through this challenge. Now, my disclaimer is quite straightforward. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an analyst. My views are observations of within the market, and certainly my discussions with a lot of the key analysts, right? So we've been talking to a lot of them, and I'll share a little bit about what some of them have to say. And I thought it might be unique and helpful to help guide you, because I don't think we're alone in this challenge today. So with that, I thought I'd start off with something a little bit light and ask you how you're doing. So you've got the chat group. You guys have been quite active on that. Feel free to pump in your answers as you feel. I just want to acknowledge that the fact that, hey, man, it's tough times, right? It is what we call the new norm, and Aki led to it earlier, and he spoke so eloquently about the whole idea of, hey, we've got to just accept the challenge and take it forward. So there's a new normality happening onto us, and I think you'll hear that quite often in many of your discussions. But we also know that we actually have to force ourselves today to start trading smarter, to trade safer and proceed with caution, almost everything we're doing. And so as you enter a building, you're having your temperature checked. It's always good as a leader in your business. You probably want to check in, hey, how's my business doing, and where are we today? How are we dealing with the reality that we have at this point? So in many cases, and I think back at how do I take my business going forward, I look at me personally, and I know that I had to make a lot of personal adjustments. I've taken some consideration in terms of my priorities at home, how I manage my time, how I focus on my critical stuff. And similarly, I think everyone in our business has had to do the same thing in the last couple of months. And I think it's good reflection in most cases. The fear, uncertainty, and doubt also gives us an opportunity to focus on what's important. And I think that there ultimately is what we are hoping we can do, is find some sort of way to navigate through this challenge. So in actual sense, and I was thinking else about this, is that I'm going to tell you about what the IT market is kind of doing in South Africa during this environment. But at the same point, I'm talking to you. And if anyone's got the real temperature on the ground today, it's you guys, because you're on the forefront, you're having to face with challenges. So I'm also hoping to hear from you. And so please feel free to share your thoughts, but also your questions, so that we can navigate through this discussion. So let me quickly start and tell you what I've done so far. And Aki spoke earlier about giving his age away, and I think I'm going to do mine right now. So just to add a little bit of lightness to the call, how many of you remember this game? And you can be honest, the fact that I played this game probably gives me my age away, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am. But I think what it did for me was it gave me a very easy way to understand what we're doing. And if you play Duck Hunt, you kind of know what the whole idea was. You pretty much had to shoot a duck, and the dog would retrieve it. Challenge on this game was that you really actually had to be ready for pretty much any opportunity. If you missed it, you'd actually be laughed at or snaggled at. But the challenge was, the better you were at predicting what could happen and quicker you could actually hit the target, then perhaps you'd be then go on to the next level. And that's what I feel we've got to do for businesses today, right? Is that we've got to say, hey, this was 2019 for me. 2020, I've got to take it to a new level. And I don't know what that level is, but I'm going to have to change it. I'm going to have to focus on what I can. And I'm not going to shoot myself down on the stuff that I've missed, but I'm really actually realize that I'm chasing a moving target. The changes over the next couple of months will challenge all our strategies. And no more can we rely on saying that was the plan for the year, we're going to stick with it, and we're not going to adapt. You actually have to adapt to each of those changes in those situations. And sometimes, in most cases, weekly, if not daily, in some opportunities. That's really the aim of that slide that I shared with you right now. And then you talk to analysts, and just to add a little bit more humor, I call this some say. Some say, and there's many of them on here. You can see we've been talking to many, we've seen many reports out of many of the analysts out there. I think there's a lot that has to be said, but for the larger part of, for most of those views, a lot of it remains to be seen. So I don't know that anyone's wrong. I don't know that anyone's completely right. But I think what we're all kind of heading forward today is that they're all having quite a poor or a bleak picture of what's going to happen. The G20 countries, all but 2 countries, are actually going to register a recession. So we're not immune to any of those challenges. And in South Africa, they're projecting to contract at least negative 5.6% on GDP growth. And that in itself really sets the stage for a challenging year, no question. But what I thought we'd do is, instead of focusing on what we already know, let's look at what these reports are saying, and I'll focus on one particular one, which is the IDC one. The IDC one offered me a little bit more detailed information when we talk about South Africa, and thankfully, they've allowed us to maybe share some of their slides with you today. And as we go through, if you need more information on that, I can certainly take you through that and put you in contact with IDC. But what they did was really talk about specifically the South African IT sector as well, and I thought they had some really good points that I thought I'd maybe also share with you today. Now, looking forward at it, we were already in a challenged situation. I think many of you know that we were not immune to it prior to any of these challenges, but the situation of COVID and the pandemic has certainly ramped and accelerated us into this challenge of where we say, okay, cool, how we as South Africa are going to transverse through this challenge. Now, the one thing that came out of it is, like, we've already had challenges in terms of currency fluctuations. We're an emerging market. We also are affected by oil and commodity prices. We've really also had a looming unemployment crisis even before this started, and we expect that to worsen. However, there are some opportunities within that, and I'll hopefully take you through it. But what I really wanted to share with you was that when we saw that coming around March this year, one of the things that we've realized through many of the other countries that we talked to within the Microsoft equation is that a lot of the other countries had maybe started some of their lockdown processes a lot sooner in the process. And what that allowed me to look at was, if I could maybe track and monitor other countries that already started with these kind of challenges, perhaps that would give me a very short-term view into terms of where we're going and what happens when we release our lockdown situations and we go from level 3 to level 2 and hopefully to level 1, not so far away. And when we see what's happening in the other countries, it offers us some insight already. So I think that there's what the analysts will say, but there's also what's going on in the world. And we definitely need to tune into that frequency and try and see what's going on there as well. Because in most cases, I don't think that any countries necessarily have an answer, but looking at what they did gives us insight into what we can be looking forward to going forward. Now, what IDC did on their discussion and their analysis, and they, trust me, firstly, right, there is no one point of departure on what that answer is. There are several factors that are changing consistently, and so they're regularly updating this particular views. And that view means, quite simply, is that you cannot look at this problem in isolation. There are many independencies. And so based on those dependencies and the maturity of that recovery, what they do understand is that we may see a certain recovery coming to certain parts of our business and certain parts of our economy at different times. So because it is really important to know that while most of our businesses today rely on one common aspect, supply, and when supply is constrained, we're unable to trade, it certainly is a influential factor, or at least has a very high weighting in terms of the design of what our recovery period would be. There are certain views, and so you must agree that in some cases there'll be an optimistic view, there'll be a probabilistic view, and then there'll be a pessimistic view. And fine, in that argument, there needs to be a lot of things that need to happen in order for each of those situations to exist. When we realize that in some cases there are some things we can't control, and we cannot control, then you realize that the picture is varied and there's very little you and I can do. However, any economy recovery is basically turned around what businesses can do, and this is why we're talking to you. So I think a lot of that change in terms of how we take a pessimistic view into an optimistic view is reliant on us taking forward that opportunity to be able to make that recovery sooner rather than later. What they also showed about us on some of their investigations and analysis is running through was really about the change in terms of spend in IT. So when we consider IT and we talk about what are the priorities, and generally there's a lot of priorities that a particular company would have, and I talk that from an SMB point all the way to an enterprise, what you'll find is that in this adjustment, a lot of priorities have to be shifted. So we saw a shift in that balance, right? And what we see here is certainly disaster recovery taking a lot more, let's say, focus in terms of short-term priorities. We've also seen business continuity, security, and access. Aki talked about it earlier. Collaboration, of course, we're doing what we should be doing today, is collaborating over the wire from the comfort of our homes, talking to you as if business is 100% intact, and it should be. And there are ways to get around that. So how does collaboration tools drive us to that equation of keeping our businesses running? And then, of course, the interesting part is flex payment and OPEX. What we are starting to see is that a lot of customers are now considering the discussion of how do we actually manage this, the situation when cash is tight, when cash requires us to, number one, pay for infrastructure, pay for our salaries, keep our staff, remunerated at the same point of seeing declining sales. How do we turn that around and start looking at better ways to start using OPEX solutions as opposed to just CAPEX purchases as we did before? Now, if you ever had or do have the benefit of a financial manager in your organization, my ask to you is start to include them in your sales development opportunity pipeline discussions as soon as possible. For the simple fact is that I've always looked at it, and I talk about my experience. Finance was kind of always seen to me as being like the traffic cop or the traffic control for most businesses, saying, yes, we can, no, we can't. We'll have to build some resources here and we'd have to do that. What I start seeing today is that kind of like that traffic control function for a business now needs to almost help you. If business is a vehicle and a car going forward, then that finance person needs to be equally the driver, the mechanic, and the passenger in that equation. I mean, I think that the finance guys might have a lot more visibility into what we can and can't do, but I think it's time for creative solutions and financial creative solutions collectively with a lot of the other portions like this disaster recovery. We talk about national disaster plan in the country. There's a lot of reliant in terms of keeping continuity. So continuity for me and survival are the two high-level themes that I would take out of this slide. And I think that that's really where the short-term focus is going. When I talk about short-term, it doesn't mean that the other portions are not done. So innovation accelerators, trying to get into cloud and data center kind of businesses will still exist. It's just that I think very clear and magnified look in terms of what are those applications, what do you need to move now and what can we move later is the question many companies are asking. And so it's really important that as a trusted advisor, as resellers today, we should be taking that question to our customers, says, hey, I understand what we had on the roadmap, understand what we do. Can we agree on what we could be doing forward and what are the short-term goals that you and I can achieve to set that forward? And I'm going to share with you a personal story on one of those discussions that talk specifically to the slide a little bit later. And what the IDC report also did was said, okay, well, if we understand we're in this challenge, in this situation, what are my tech spending priorities? And let me have a look and see if we could actually go out. So they went out on a survey, spoke to a lot of customers that came out of it and said, okay, well, we agree on the slide before in terms of some of the stuff like collaboration and mobility and access to information and security and having, connectivity available to our customers and to our employees, more importantly. Where would you feature and how would you decide that? And this is really important. And you'll see that more and more customers have started to shift their opinions as of last year to this year in terms of those priorities. And they're sizable shifts. I mean, if you look at digital employee experience in the digital workspace and collaboration, 67% of that have suddenly said, yes, now that's my priority. So when you look at this kind of map and you have this kind of view, it's always good because it gives you an indication that if there is budget to be spent, if there's revenue to be made, these are kind of the first things you need to put into process. And that's a very, very important slide. Now, what I did on the next slide was had a look at it and said, well, okay, well, that's pretty great. But then are we actually saying what we are saying? Are we saying that that IT budgets will increase. And the answer is, at least from the IDC side today, is that yes, we do expect it to increase. But number one, we'll see a shift in terms of the budget, but in certain segments of your business, that IT spend will have to increase. And it's primarily driven around one big area, and that's really about remote work capabilities. So remote work capabilities is certainly, and Aki even mentioned it earlier, the companies did not see that happening. Suddenly you realize I've lacked that necessary capability. I need to quickly migrate to the digital part of my plan. And Elaine mentioned a little bit earlier about it, said that digital migration strategies for organizations are now starting to filter right to the top of that equation. So today, do we see an opportunity? I think absolutely yes. I think we can go out there and try and address that need. It really is there and visible. We know it. I mean, we've had to change things around at home. We had to change things around at the office, and we've just got to make ourselves more accessible remotely. Of course, there was some, some unintended or unplanned purchasing of hardware that had to happen, and so that went in. There was also investments in cloud infrastructure that needs to be directed. Software upgrades, huge issue. A lot of companies.
Hi everyone. It looks like we've lost. Yes, sorry, we lost your audio for a second. Do you mind going back a couple of seconds? Yes, yeah, you are. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thanks very much. So I'll try and pick up from where I left, and I hope that my screen is still being presented. Elaine, can you confirm that everything's okay? I seem to have poor network quality on my side. Okay, cool.
It looks good. Thank you.
So, thanks. So I think that for many of our customers, it was about, are you capable and are you ready to run with that particular acceleration into remote workforce? And I'll share with you a little bit more as well in the next couple of slides on what we can be doing differently as an organization, or at least the IT community together on how we can address that demand. But certainly the indicators are that there will be some increase in IT spend, period. The question is where and how do you and I address that? Okay. So moving on to my next slide, you may say that, oh, but we might be talking about different customers here. And now that's the interesting one, because generally what I've picked up on the slide is, while those are priorities that you would normally think as an enterprise customer talking about, this is really now showing me a different picture. It kind of shows me that it doesn't matter on the size of employees. There's certainly and going to be an increase across all spectrums of business, which means that one thing COVID did was level the playing field, not just globally, or for that matter, between, different regions or different countries, but now towards businesses. So every segment of every customer environment is now asking for some or more expertise in terms of, what do I need to do? Help me navigate. Let's partner together and find what are the quickest ways for me to accelerate it. Because not only are they finding that their customers need it, but what's really coming out to many of the companies is that now they need to have a workforce and they have to have a lot more skills in their current environment. So a lot of the workforce had to adapt to be able to talk a little bit more about other solutions that normally wasn't their core focus. We certainly realize at this stage we cannot rely on the old way of doing business. So it's not just about selling hardware. And my colleagues Caroline and Marilyn also share that. It's about selling a solution, because if we don't know what that problem is and we don't offer a solution to it, it certainly is going to get shelved, and it's not going to offer any particular acceleration until we offer how that's going to fix that solution today. On a personal level, I have to tell you, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what happens tomorrow or next week. I mean, for a long time ago, I have to say that, honestly, a haircut and Seattle coffee were essential items for me on my list. And today, not being able to, have your haircut, and not for that matter, run to the coffee shop and have a Seattle and meet with a friend and chat, affects a lot in terms of what fulfills me, but also affects a lot in terms of the way I used to communicate. But today, we're talking about things that we assumed were essential. I think for a lot of us, we have to ask our customers that question. What was essential to you before, and how has the priorities and situations changed today that gives you different things that you are chasing and or now prioritizing? And now I just want to take a moment just to say thanks to IDC, because I think that insight for them doing those regular reports was quite useful. If any one of you need a contact to be talking to IDC more in depth, like I said, I'm not the analyst, but I certainly have a lot of discussions with them. Please let me know, and we'll certainly point you in the right direction of getting in touch with our local IDC contact, because that was just feedback out of one report, and there are a multitude of them available. Now let's talk about looking ahead, and let's try and step away from this, because I think there's a lot of knowns and unknowns. I think what we all realized, what we saw, was that we had some demand in country, right? So, I mean, there was definitely a historic demand and a shift that customers would say, yeah, I was planning to upgrade this, I was planning to move into this mode, this is what I had. And then there was obviously the online shift. I think we know that online shift is happening because we do see a lot of this move to digital processes driving some sort of demand. But what we were faced with in addition to that was, you may have known, we've got some inventory pressure, right? We saw some challenges into the supply coming out of China. We have increased costs because our rand just doesn't behave adequately or favorably to any one of us today. But what we are seeing today for sure, and I think you all can agree with me, is that there's certainly a surge in demand for work from home and learn from home. But there's also a surge for gaming. There's also the surge for pro upgrade and the demand for entry machines, certainly because sometimes budget doesn't afford us to do it. So these are kind of things we know. But the things we don't know is, like, when will normal return? Yeah. How long does this go on for? And it's okay. Don't let those ideas or those challenges defocus you of what is unknown, because the recovery length, the PC demand, whether it would last, whether we're going to have more economic headwinds or changes in structural trends, is a moving target. And that's why I started with the slide that I did. So it is important to regain focus and focus on what we know, serve the demand of what exists today, and be able to take the opportunity going forward. Now, today the situation hasn't necessarily shown any sign of resolving or relieving itself. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to share with you here is that there's every single news channel has information about this pandemic. So I'm not really going to regurgitate what you already know, but what I want to share with you is that what I think we do know is that we've currently got about 8 million people that have been affected by this. So it's a pandemic in no other definition for us today. 3 out of 4 of the consumers expect the global outbreak to last well over 6 months. I think that's pretty much the same for us. And personally, I don't see it necessarily becoming a norm as we knew business before. But what was the biggest impact that we've seen today, and in South Africa specifically, in conjunction with the rest of the world, is 90% of our students were impacted. And that's a really, really, really tough problem to have, but at the same point, a really great opportunity for us to be able to go and talk. So when we're talking to people today, we're realizing that because many companies are now working from home, the surge of use of collaboration tools like Teams obviously had to show an increase and opportunity, and that was great. So when Aki spoke about that, the opportunity to attach a display, the opportunity to attach a webcam, a microphone, etc., started becoming necessary. In fact, I've read some articles where some companies actually now giving budgets to companies to actually to employees, to set up some home workspace environments. That is redirected fund revenue opportunity, and I do ask you to take that to your customers, asking them, are you going to be doing anything for your employees working from home in the new norm? What is that opportunity? How can we help you serve those opportunities and challenges? But I think what came out of this equation, beyond anything else, is that while we talked about essential items, essential lists, PCs started to enter into that definition. And for a lot of us, it started to deem itself as an essential item for our continuity of our businesses and our lives at home. And so not only did we see a lot of collaboration, but now a lot more people also started getting more inspired to turn on their video like we are today. And I thought I'd even change my background because it's so cold outside. I really just didn't want to have to worry about looking out the window, but I thought maybe putting, a little bit of a sunnier background in the back end of my screen today might give some hope that, the weather will turn around. But while that happens, I think that we're going to be in the situation where we are focusing a lot more on video collaboration, conferencing. And sometimes, in many cases, I know there was a question earlier, like, our customers want to see us. Yes, because it's easy having a conversation, and yes, it's right to have the telephone calls, etc. But every now and then, it's always good to connect with someone over the video. And we saw that happening in the rest of the world when we look in terms of our usage of our products. Working from home may be the new norm, as we call it. Like I told you earlier, it's like the PC is now becoming the essential for me, and I think for many of us in our families, it has. I think what really I wanted to show on this slide was that there is an opportunity today for us to go and address this groundswell. And we have to lead with providing solutions that matter now. And let's go to that challenge. Let's raise ourselves to that opportunity of going to our customers and taking that to task by providing them a whole solution. The whole solution isn't about saying, well, I'll give you a a device. Well, I'll give you a device, but let's talk about your data requirements. Let's talk about your backup environment. Let's talk about the opportunity for you from home in terms of how you're working, and what is the rest of the family doing, and what is the rest of the organization doing. I think that's really important when we talk to customers, is that maybe we need to also see this not just as the office we used to recognize it, but consider a proper remote workforce in terms of all the tools and products and solutions that they need. So I thought that maybe in this case, what I'd do is I'd quickly try and give you a couple of scenarios on what those new customers might look like. So if many of you knew, when the lockdown hit us, we weren't allowed to move around. It was difficult to get an upgrade. In fact, at some point, it was even difficult to get a PC. But what I think you might want to see in the market here is that a couple of new buyers have come in. Now, when you look at personal devices, who needs to be? Here's an example of a yoga instructor, music teacher, doctor, real estate individuals that suddenly said, well, I now realize I've got to take my business online. I've got to be able to give my lessons virtually. I've got to be able to call on my karate class over the wire and try and present that via some sort of device. On professional side, generally we're seeing engineers, managers, and those which generally just, I've got a thin and light, I move around a lot, that's fine. But what they've realized, because they've been locked down, is that they might have need for a much more stronger, bigger, more powerful machine, because at this stage they aren't moving around; they're sitting very much in a desk-based environment. So that offers some opportunity for us to sell different devices. College students, this is really, the fact that all of their lessons have now been moved online is really an opportunity to try and isolate it from using the family PC. And that leads to my second point, is that generally what we see in emerging market is that there's a 1-to-3 ratio. In other words, 3 people using 1 machine. That's general. But because everyone's working from home, the kids are studying, dad's doing the calls, mum's doing the calls, they're then deciding they want to watch Netflix later. Then we want to get together, putting a recipe together. There seems to be a certain demand to have more of a 1-to-1 ratio in that PC ecosystem. And that's super opportunistic for us in some instances, but addresses the need. And so we should then position the right products and solutions for that market and opportunity. All right. You'll also find that kids generally also want to play games. And so to some extent, the gaming device now gets replaced, or the spend on a gaming device gets replaced on a PC device that potentially could do both. In some cases, know that will also happen. But in many cases, like at home where I have my kids like, well, Dad, now I need a monitor. Can we get a monitor? Because I need something bigger that I can work with. And I certainly see that being because it wasn't healthy for me to have my kid on a screen all the time, but knowing having a smaller screen was a worse off the 2 evils. So I did decide to invest on maybe a larger screen so that he would obviously save some sort of health challenges later on in life, because I certainly don't know if it's really healthy for our kids to be sitting that long in front of a machine and a PC. But if we have to, then let me be sure that I'm doing absolutely the best that I can to provide as little impact to him going forward. So I think there's some new opportunities that come out of that, and really I think this is perhaps the one slide that I picked up. I thought it would be very, very important for us to share with you. And if you look at the top line of it, it's a business focus, right? I think a lot of businesses are challenged on continuity, cost optimization, and then they look for resiliency, target investments, and hopefully get into a future enterprise mode. But the economic situation at the bottom weighs that graph considerably. We've got a crisis, we've got economic slowdown, we've got a recession we're heading into most likely, but we hope at some point we'll return to growth and have the next normal. And in that sense, if using coining the term flatten the curve, I thought it was kind of quite relative to us here because we represent the IT market. It's really about how do we collectively flatten that curve and accelerate out of that economic slowdown recession period and start returning to growth. So for me, the big key takeaways here, consider what the level has eased and or prohibited you from doing, the different levels of the lockdown, and take those observations. Did you see a surge in some areas? Did you see an opportunity to discuss new problems? What was utilization and continuity for you working from home? And what does your staff and your customers feel that they could do? Because I think it's about bringing those parallels and realities into equation. I mean, I'll give you a completely open and honest comment on my personal experience. Now I know that for many of you, and I do apologize for those that don't drink alcohol, but for those of you that do, that enjoy a glass of wine every now and then, I know that the restriction on alcohol sales I suppose didn't affect me, but it concerned me. So there was absolutely that opportunity that when we are releasing the alcohol sales, I certainly wouldn't mind stocking up on a couple extra bottles of wine back at home. So what do? Being the guy that I am, it's like, okay, cool, let me have a look, and I'll find probably 4 or 5 reputable online alcohol traders out there. So I decided to go and place my orders in advance, or at least on the day of June 1st, so that make sure that I get ahead of the queue, because I wasn't really sure I was going to jump into a queue and stand for a couple of hours at a macro line to buy a couple of bottles of alcohol. And so I decided, hey, this was going to be a nice opportunity. I'm going to test this going forward. So I'm going to order online and see if they deliver me a couple of bottles of wine. Do you want to know the truth? 10 days into my order, I hadn't heard anything. I went in and this order was placed, I suppose, the 1st of June, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. Today's the 17th, and I still don't have my order. When I called the director of this organization, I'm not talking about a small company, I'm talking about a large company out there. Called the director of the company and said, hey, I don't have my order. It's not critical, but you got to let me know. Do I cancel here, or are you actually planning to send me my stock? And I mean, the guy was completely honest, but I've never actually heard someone be as, I suppose, distraught about what's actually happened. In the first 10 days of sales online, his server crashed. They could just not take as many transactions. The amount of revenue allocated on his books in that first 10 days was equivalent to the last year's spend. It was amazing. I mean, here we're seeing revenue shoot through the roof. So I asked him what's going on. He's like, my servers are not handling the transaction. I've had to shut down online sales. I've had to be sure that I go out with an extra call center to call my customers. My logistics and delivery and everything else is in shambles. I don't know what to do. And here's a customer sitting with a surge of revenue on his table, going through and saying, how do I address this? I'm not able to contend with the demand because I just didn't take the time enough to understand if that happened, what would my scenario play? Did I need an extra server? Did I need an extra, a facility on my digital ability to have my employees working from home? And he had to do all of that with 30% utilization of his staff. So if things are working smoothly, it's the first thing you've got to look at. You might not have to fix what's working today, but you absolutely have to take the new normal into account and say, am I provisioned to take a surge? Am I provisioned to go and maximize 10 days of an annual revenue in my business today? Because if I did and it could, what would that mean to me? And I know that not all businesses are open today, but they will certainly start to. So I can only imagine what happens in tourism when that opens up. Is there demand, pent-up demand that will suddenly flood through and you just can't manage that transaction? So it really is perhaps not so much panic, but released pressure that's been building up in the country, and that's super important. So personally, I wish my hair salon would offer me a pre-booking app that told me that the day they're open, I'll be the first in queue, but I don't know when that would be. And I know that when it does happen, I'm going to have to call and wait in line. But in the meantime, I'll have a hair that grows, and hopefully, I can find another hairdresser that might be open, but they might lose customers and they might gain customers. And this is really the discussions we need to take to our customers. So I really hope that today all our office can perhaps put our energies together and try and flatten the curve when it comes to how technology can address the next normal. And I really thought that would be good for me to share with you today. So I do hope you enjoyed the session, and that's it from my side. And I'm really open for questions. And if there's any.
Hi, Yesh, thanks so much for that. So we actually have a question from Funeka Mulamu, who says, how has the pandemic influenced the IT industry in relation to working with the transport and logistics sector?
Wow, I think that's a super good question. It's a lot, right? I mean, we found that when it came to the deliveries, when it came to moving equipment from point A to B, it really suffered a lot. And to be quite honest, I think it really has made a big impact in the wrong way to our logistics and transport industries. Why? Because until you were ready to provide some sort of, I know we had to move stuff from one apartment to another. It was just a bit crazy. There was absolutely, a restriction and a stop that affected not only the revenue for those companies, because I really think they have a challenge in terms of catching up, but now that the lockdown is releasing, I do hope that they can claim back some of that business. But the truth of the matter is that it didn't matter when the petrol price went down this time, right? That's how we looked at it before. We said petrol price goes down, great, business will be fine. We worry about going up. It went down, but then there was nowhere to go and we couldn't get around. So I think it affected a lot, and I really think that I do hope now that we can get to some point of recovery. Cool.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any more questions. Yes, do you want to ask
Sure,
the
and
audience
then-
any questions?
No, nothing specifically on my side.
Okay.
I'll quickly take
Okay,
that,
sure.
but I'll hand over to you, Elaine, then. Thanks very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, everybody, thank you so much for attending our event today. This is it from our side. I hope that you found some really valuable insights from our various speakers. I myself have learned a couple of things. I think we live in a bit of a scary world at the moment, but I'm pretty sure that if we put our heads down and get clever about it, there are still opportunities that we can take advantage of. Please, everyone, we urge you to complete the feedback form, and we'll send a link in the announcements window, and we will be giving out a prize for the feedback form. It looks like we've also made announcements on the winners from the various sessions. Thank you once again for attending the event. I hope that everyone has a great day.